This should be yours. Ja, Feuer frei. Okay, da sind wir wieder. Nachdem wir jetzt gerade über das Smart Home geredet haben, freue ich mich jetzt ganz besonders, dass wir wieder ins Englische umswitchen können. Und zwar, I'm just very, very happy to see you again, JP. Rangaswami, Chief Scientist at Salesforce. We had a fantastic talk during Dreamforce, and it's always great to geek out with you. And therefore, we have almost an hour with you over here to talk about, you know,
Looking forward to it, Sasha.
Absolutely. Okay, now can you use the microphone?
Yeah,
okay.
sure. Is that better?
Is that fine? Yeah. Fantastic. So, you know what? Talking about the changes, the big changes on the internet. Talking about, I think the last time we talked about sensors a lot. We talked about wearables. Right? It was just like a big roundup of what's really the state of technology. The state of mobility and connectivity. What actually really excites you about this?
Well, I think we've been talking about this for a while, but being able to then not just bring it into the home or into work, but being able to see examples in everyday life. That's what's begun, to be really making the difference for me. So if I look at home, as I was sort of talking to you just on the way in here, even the possibility that I can rig up a camera that is motion sensitive and that is night vision in order to be able to track down the owl that comes to visit me, not every day, not at the same time, completely unpredictable.
Yeah.
And that the cost of my being able to connect it up and then to say, if it happens, it happens. I may wait quite a long time before I ever see it. But now I don't have to sit in analog terms every night waiting for hours, hoping the owl might turn up. I'm going to learn something that educates me about that owl, such that maybe later I can go and actually wait where I know the owl comes. Because today, I have no idea where in the garden.
At least hear it.
Yes. And I love the sound, and I feel like, I'm at home and I'm at peace when I hear him.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
But it's not just that. Also, again, like we were talking about the nature of everything being connected and what that means with sort of devices and wearables. The idea that, just a couple of days ago, I saw something which totally blew my mind, okay?
Okay.
My wife has decided that as our children are leaving home, we don't need one of the rooms anymore as much as we used to. We can convert it into my den.
Yeah.
So I was doing the normal thing that any 56-year-old kid does. If you're going to have a new big room of your own, what's the size of the train set you can put there? Okay. So I've been going through the internet on the market for 00 gauge suspended ceiling train sets and whether I can do this properly analog.
Yeah.
With steam. Okay,
Wow.
I want to see steam coming out. But I couldn't have gone through that discovery process. But while doing it, I suddenly began to think about how I can decorate this room.
Yeah.
And what kind of responsiveness. Because when you talk about sensors and actuators, you're actually talking about making something responsive.
Yes.
Okay? It becomes animate.
Yeah.
It is connected.
Yeah.
And it is capable of being subscribed to, of publishing an alert, of changing state because you interact with it.
Right.
And you change state, it changes state, as it were. And one of the things I saw last week, blew my mind altogether. A woman's sort of designed a spray.
Okay.
And I just saw a dress made of leather, which you could barely see was made of leather, fabulously sort of sculptured.
Yeah.
But if you went near it and you blew, just blew, because of the warmth, it changed color.
Oh, wow.
Okay?
Oh, wow.
And then suddenly I start thinking, wow, what else can this do? And then found out that people have been experimenting with liquids, sprays, that allow you to make a surface sensitive to heat, sensitive to light, sensitive to motion. Okay? Now, what does that mean, right?
Yeah.
Does that mean, like at one extreme, in a hospital, the color of the bed or the gown starts giving very early indicators of a change
Body
that
temperature.
rather than saying I'm going to sit and
like that.
read something, already I have the ability for a device to send me an alert.
Yeah.
But part of the challenge of information, okay, when you have very, very vast quantities of information, we were discussing this again, during Dreamforce, is that in this, as everything and everyone becomes connected,
Absolutely.
you need better filters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? And one of the ways of filtering is good visualization tools. And I love the people speak of, I don't know whether there's the right, I don't know the German term for it, but, like synesthesia.
Okay.
That if there are already people who, see sort of something that was, text or numbers as music, and other people who see music as text, and these kind of transformations take place, can taste colors, etc. What happens then if we start empowering people with these sort of services?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, but tell me what else are you seeing? Because I mean, I'm just stuck with the how to take these learnings and start taking friction and latency out of many different parts of my life. So I see it at work, I see it at home, that I start living in the feed.
Absolutely.
Right?
And I think we have the best jobs you can imagine, in my opinion, because we have this huge vast of information streaming through us each and every day, 24/7. We're developing our own filters. Right.
Yep.
It can be a very rational, a bullshit filter, right? It's all happening based on experiences that we make.
Did you read about Howard Rheingold's sort of crap detector? He's actually doing a course on crap detection.
Well, you know what? I have to do this because I'm getting like 50 PR pitches a day.
Right.
This is based on experience.
But do you use your social network for that as well as part of the signaling?
It is so interesting. If something is really important, I don't have to look for it. It will find me anyways.
Exactly.
It will come to me. If I really have to search for it, it can't be that important anymore to me. And sooner or later, information finds you. And information always wants to find you.
I used to give that example for email.
Okay. Yeah.
20 years ago, I go on holiday.
Yeah.
And I have 3 choices. I don't do any mail when I'm on holiday. I come home, come back. I have 10,000 emails. What do? Yeah. If I start with the oldest, I'm getting irritated because I don't have the content.
Delete them
now, but now the point is I don't even have to delete them. I just don't care.
Yeah.
Right? Because
if something is important,
it will come.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Someone in my network will make sure I deal with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay?
You know what? Well, what I think is really interesting is that after living for millenniums and centuries in a very linear world where development was very linear, and now, especially with the Internet of Things, we're going into this contextual age where we have so many sensors. I think it is very, very hard to get your head around the Internet of Things and M2M, right? Because this will be a market, and this will reshape and shape our world in a way that the mobile industry could never do this. It will be so chaotic, and it will also be so creative because it can be everything.
Yeah, but I think you mentioned a really important word over there, and maybe it's also what's causing the chaos, the creativity.
Yes.
It happens because there are people involved.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Picasso said very famously about talking about computers, but they're useless. They can only give you answers.
Yeah.
Okay. We live in an age where we get to ask questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
We get to do things that, I want to feel every day I'm outsourcing stupid jobs to computers and creating time to do other things. Okay. Yeah. Some people think I'm spending all that time thinking about food. Right? That's creative enough for me. I'd spend a lot of time thinking about food, right? And cooking is important, but
absolutely.
Now when I go to a restaurant, I can claim to people I'm researching.
Yeah. Well, it's also a matter of sensors again.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
As important as sensors are, artificial ones,
Yeah.
technical ones,
Our own
our sensors are going to be the way they're going to merge together with virtual sensors and technical
But
sensors. Will be very,
you
very
know
crucial.
from our last conversation, I'm already,
Yeah.
some form of cyborg.
Yeah,
Really.
yeah.
I have a pacemaker.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's not just a pacemaker; it's an ICD. Okay,
Yeah.
it's what they call an implantable cardioverter defibrillator. And now, when I go into the pacing clinic, okay,
Yeah.
and this is really the connected sort of when you want to think about the Internet of Things. One of the reasons why I love this Internet of Customers phrase
Yeah.
is not because it's marketing, but saying for the thing to have value,
Yeah.
it is because that thing relates to a person or people, right? Going back to the idea of, if a tree falls, does anyone sort of hear it? Does it make a sound? Uh, the idea that we have things that are connected, for those things to have meaning, we have to connect to the human in the chain.
Absolutely.
Right? So Mark Benioff would say things like, behind every tweet there is a customer. So every sensor and actuator that we think of,
Yeah.
there's a customer somewhere. Okay, maybe a patient, maybe a citizen, maybe a maintenance worker, maybe a sportsman. What are you wearing today?
Yeah, yeah.
What are your fitness devices? What are your feedback loops? But now I'm being able to do things like, okay, I'm now going to check what my heart was doing at 11 o'clock on Saturday and compare that with the information that I have on my Twitter stream and on my Fitbit. Okay?
Yeah.
You tie the three things together saying, I have an internal representation of something that's going on, connected up to my location, to the activity I was performing, and how I was interpreting that activity with my friends, meaning what was I sharing.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay? Soon, if you imagine the amount of food porn that goes on, I don't need to have to take a photograph of something I'm eating. I'm probably going to be able to take the photograph only to say, analyze it, tell me how much sugar it's got, how much fat it's got, how much of this can I have within what is a reasonable level of value for me.
Yeah.
Right? About 8 years ago, I wrote. Do you remember Shazam?
Yeah, of course.
Okay? Now,
I still have it on my phone, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, well, it used to be this 2580
right.
in the feature phone days.
Yeah, yeah.
And I wrote a post saying, "Where's my Shazam for birds and trees?"
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Absolutely.
Well, someone wrote to me last week.
I remember that you mentioning it.
Yeah. Well, I know we spoke briefly, but
yeah.
A woman's come up to me and said, "Here is my application. We have solved it for you."
That is amazing.
Okay.
I absolutely love that.
When I see those sort of possibilities,
Yeah.
that children are going to be able to watch a surface change color based on sound or heat or light or touch, that we are going to be able, and already, I don't know whether you've seen the Philips Hue.
Yeah, of
right?
course.
I got a set at home, and I had my niece and nephew sort of come over for Christmas.
Yeah.
And the idea that they'd be on a phone and being able to change color just by touching it completely freaked them out.
So important for our mood and atmosphere. Right?
Yeah. I think, the great thing about the age we've entered now is the sense of wonder. Okay?
Yeah.
And I was a child of the 50s, growing up in the 60s, hearing about things like the space race, being able to watch things begin to get miniaturized. My radio used to be a big valve, and then suddenly it started getting smaller too, and we called it a transistor radio, and you could actually carry it, no wires, right? So the kind of the joy with which you got onto a plane and said, "Wow, this is incredible. We can actually move distances."
I think it's coming back, this joy.
Exactly.
I think we kind of lost it for like 2 decades.
And
everything kind of
and the joy, that wonder,
absolutely
right?
With you on this. Yeah.
Every day, seeing devices. I mean, even a simple app like Cycloramic. I don't know whether you've seen it.
Yeah.
Right, sort of saying, "Wow, someone's taken the power to turn around and say, I'm going to use Vibrate."
Yeah.
to be able to move this device around, and then the camera will stitch together.
They've been even on Shark Tank and done very, very well.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. But even everything we're seeing today, if the outcome is we're going to be back in a land of wonder,
I agree.
then I only have 1 hour left of life in that form.
Yeah.
Before we meet again,
Yeah.
where is my jetpack? Where is my bubble car? Right? Because I want to. I've never learned to drive.
Yeah.
I want to cut out driving, go straight to flying. Okay.
I like that idea, even though I'm not so sure about the air agencies, right? That are kind of ridiculous.
Well, P2P.
Yeah. Oh no, that makes perfect sense.
And I don't like hub and spoke systems for this.
You know what? When we're looking at this exponential growth of technology that is happening around us, and once again, I know it sounds kind of boring, and I think I'm not such a huge fan of these buzzwords, and I actually prefer this Internet of Customers over Internet of Things and over all these cloud computing buzzwords.
Well, if there isn't a customer, exactly.
At the end of the day,
if there is no customer, there is no value.
And at the end of the day, all these devices are basically windows into the cloud and windows for information, right? No matter how we're going to name them.
I'll just avoid the word window. A view into.
View into it. Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's a notebook. It doesn't matter what kind of shape it has.
But I like the fact that it's two-way.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not just that you are able to look into something else.
Yeah. No,
but also
I can pull.
You can pull as well. Exactly.
This is always puzzling me. We just had this for the opening this morning. We were talking about how traditional media and traditional TV, this push concept, is just not even a very small part of my life anymore. It is just over. I have a TV set in my living room.
You have
500 channels. I never watch it.
Yeah, my two of my children have left home.
Yeah.
Neither of them has a landline or a television set.
Yeah.
Okay?
For what?
They don't know what to do with it.
No. Okay? All I'm doing is I want to pull the information when I have time. I want to pull the specific information. I don't want anyone to tell me what kind of information I have to consume.
So automatically you're saying I would like it when I want it, where I want it, how I want it. Yeah. But I think one of the changes that's taken place in that is, if I had this conversation with you 5 years ago, I'd be thinking about a single device world.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now, the multi-device elements, one of the interesting things I'm trying to look at is saying, but what I get on my watch is not what I want on my phone.
Absolutely.
What I want on my phone is not what I want on my tablet. This idea that, even if we take something as simple as music, okay? I do not want my entire collection of music and all my life to be available on every device. Okay? I don't need to have that. So in some, I will just pull what I need.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So it doesn't need to have the storage capacity. And by the way, talking about music devices, what is it? What is today's date?
The 10th of March.
In 4 days, I think, something I've been waiting for 3 years comes out.
Ooh.
Neil Young has been working with people to build a brand new digital device.
Neil Young is doing a digital device. That's interesting.
Okay, and I'm a big Neil Young fanboy, and
fantastic.
I now have been hearing stories. Some of it has started hitting the web. That this week it'll come on to Kickstarter. Yeah, and it will be a new digital device, really giving us sound quality of the way. I mean, for me, when I listen to music, that was just wait and see.
That was a great pitch. I have a 15 minutes live version of Like a Hurricane of Neil Young on my Spotify stat list. I just love it. That is amazing.
That whole group and that age sort of changed me, and I had the chance to meet him. And
great.
I have washed my hands since.
That's amazing. But you know what? I think what you said with the statement, I would love to come back to this, to the Internet of Customers.
Yeah.
We are entering an age where it's not a matter of what kind of device I'm using. This idea of the all-in-one device was kind of developing towards laziness of customers and making compromises. I don't want to make a compromise when I'm using my smartphone or when I'm using my laptop. There's a reason why I'm using the laptop and not the smartphone.
But it is as true, I think, for every form of technology. Okay, if you take something like search, okay, I will use Google for general search. But if I want to find the price of a second-hand book because I'm trying to, I collect books, then one of the places I will go to is Books. And it'll give me a better answer than Google.
Yeah.
If I want to know, I collect vinyl.
Yeah.
Okay. I like my analog music. And when I want to do that, I go to a platform called Discogs. Okay. Which is community-driven, fabulous APIs, and is amazing. Yeah. But the whole point of this is for those specializations, you don't want to compromise.
Absolutely.
Okay? And this idea that platforms are the way we build these services, you go back to the Internet of Customers, what I find useful is saying that I'm now changing the user experience, the way I engage with information, because I can live in a feed. Okay? In the past, I used to have static views. Yeah. Right? The same person, when you say, JP, I don't have to worry about something reaching me anymore. If it's important, it'll get to me. That is implied within the way a feed operates. Okay? Stuff's going past you that you have subscribed to, that you have had alerts because you've expressed an interest, whether it's a person who's a friend within your network, whether it's a topic you follow, whether it's a device which is alerting you because it's reached some threshold. Saying, this room is getting hot, or I'm running low on battery, or whatever else. The notification process coming to you doesn't require you to then go leave what you're doing, have the switching cost of leaving it. You can deal with it in the feed, okay? My example from personal kind of terms is someone sends me a piece of music and says, here's a link. You should really listen to this, JP. Okay?
Yeah.
I can now stay within the feed and click and hear it.
Right.
I don't have to go to a separate player, separate environment to do it.
Yeah.
If I like it and I want to do something about it, download it, arrange for it to be available for me to stream later, whatever else, those choices are available for me in the feed. So when the Internet of Customers is the way we think, then we realize the customer does not want to have multiple sign-ons to multiple devices in multiple locations, doesn't want to keep having to swivel chair integrate between services saying, I'm here.
Exactly.
Right? I'm choosing to do something now. Let me do it here. Yeah. And the other thing, I think, is that in this sort of Internet of Customers, one of the things I get, which I was finding very hard to get in the past, is I get information. You mentioned earlier, if something is important, my friends will tell me. Yeah? Mm-hmm. That is true for everything, in the sense that when I make a decision about what I want to eat, what I want to listen to, what I want to watch, where I want to work, who I want to work with, whatever the engagement is, my network is the most valuable entity there exists to advise me.
Yeah.
David Weinberger said, the smartest person in the room is the room.
Yeah.
Okay?
Absolutely.
Part of our filtering is the quality of that room.
Yeah, I agree.
No, so what are you seeing here now on Internet of Customer? Where are you seeing people connected, building services into a stream, being able to serve better? Because, healthcare is one place, the automotive is a place, but I'm also as interested in seeing how it's changing local government, potholes, dogs, illness. Yeah. How are you dealing with serving communities? Tell me what you're seeing. We haven't.
First of all, I think there's a very interesting trend in the industry based on something that was originally somehow founded already, it's a fundamental part of mankind, to collaborate, to work together on something.
Yeah, man is social.
Right? And to get together, people from all kinds of... When you imagine the very first the very first startup weekends, and now we have these hackathons over here. And when I see incubators getting created, where software developers, hardware developers, designers, industrial designers, marketing
we're opening in Berlin now.
You do. Yeah. There you go. They're all coming together from completely different markets, from having completely different ideas and angles, and now can build something together. They might all have the same idea, or somehow an idea they can agree on about, what's really cool and what we really want from all these possibilities that are around us.
So are you seeing things like, Raspberry Pi or Arduino?
Yeah. And I think that was just the beginning. My background is IPC and embedded. That's where I'm coming from.
Okay, so
these devices have been around for 40 years or 50 years. They've been just goddamn expensive, right?
No, but I think also the access to them is not just affordable, but the technology to manipulate them requires, sort of a young person can actually program one of these devices.
Yeah.
Where in the past you had to already have qualified quite a bit.
And you're absolutely right. Plus the resources to get the sources for manuals and everything. That was a huge problem in the 80s. I remember my first little 8-bit computer came with a huge manual, like 400, 500 pages, right?
Yeah.
You don't have this anymore. You're buying a notebook. Have you ever seen a notebook with a manual or a smartphone?
Yeah. But between...
Because it's there, it's out there. And you can become part of a community. If you're interested, if you're an interested teenager or even a kid in these days, right? I think that's like paradise.
Yeah.
I would have wished...
No, I think that's a very important point, because the ability for us now to work in community has solved 3 aspects of it. 1, I don't need the manuals anymore. I can get the data online. 2, if I want better answers or to solve a particular point, I'm now able to ask questions of a community. And the 3rd, the sharing of experiences means that I learn faster because I can see what someone else has done.
The sharing part is very, very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it also, I think this is a fundamental... sharing has been always part of mankind, part of our development, part of developing societies. But the way that I can now scale it up on a level, on an international, on a global level, and getting input from people that are coming out of a completely different society, having a different perspective on life.
Yeah, but that increases, I think, the resilience.
Absolutely.
Because there's a diversity in it.
Yes.
Right?
Which is important,
absolutely.
To make the next evolutionary step for our societies.
Yeah. And it's cross-border, cross-culture.
Absolutely.
Even the linguistic implications are different. Are you seeing stuff like, communities like if this, then that, people sharing templates of things, saying,
very, very important.
So even the whole GitHub type environment,
yes.
Is that becoming more visible to you even in the embedded spaces?
It is. I think, the GitHub has been always very, very important for the developers community, right? And this is one of the central platforms out there. And what I think is the most, I kind of hate to say disruptive development, right? Because this is not about destroying something. This is more about creating something.
Yeah, creating at speed and scale.
Yeah. But I know sometimes you really have to destroy things to get rid of them and to build something on top of it that just makes...
So, but what's exciting you in that?
We're talking about connectivity. We are living in very saturated markets.
True.
And we're always connected to the internet. And it's very hard to think outside of your box, out of the bubble that you created, not only the filter bubble, but this little microsphere that we're living in. We're talking to the same colleagues all the time, we're surfing on the same web pages, right? And it's the same information streams that we're getting. And these information streams are even getting manipulated by the portals that we're visiting each and every day. It's very, very hard to have a pure stream, right?
Are you familiar with, Eli Pariser, the filter bubble work?
Yeah. It's hard to get a pure stream. You need to create your own pure stream, and this would be to break it down, it will go back to the old RSS feed days, right?
Yeah.
This would be my personal. But then it's again a bubble that I created for myself because I'm not getting this feed that other people with a completely different perspective have, right? It's not becoming part of my, which is important for the development.
Absolutely. I mean, when I wrote my series on filters, at Confuser Calcutta, part of what I spent time focusing on was this idea of, like a serendipity button.
Yeah.
Okay. In the early days when the blogosphere was sort of coming together, the blog role was useful.
Oh yeah.
Because if I went to somebody else's site, one of the ways I would discover new sources.
Yeah.
And I always felt that you don't want the source to be identical, a clone of what you think. You should have similar interests, but not necessarily identical views.
Yeah.
Right? Because the interest with a differing view, we tend to learn not from the similarities, but from the differences. The similarities sort of strengthen our ability to communicate, but the differences teach us. Because it's like saying you learn through failure, you also learn through difference.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
This development that is happening with this ubiquitous internet and connectivity, which is not happening on the so-called developed markets.
True.
I think it's way more dynamic and way more interesting when we're talking about devices that are in a price range of below $100.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is where I see innovation actually happening.
Couldn't agree more.
They all do the same, and guess what they're doing? Each and every generation, it's getting a little bit faster, like 10 or 20% faster. Okay, big deal, fantastic. There's more resolution. Okay, is it going to change my life? No. This isn't.
No. My favorite
of this is like of a desktop PC 7 years ago.
My favorite example of this is a few years old, but it taught me something about how they even call the environment reverse innovation.
Yeah.
Okay? And the particular person who told me this story, sadly, he's passed away. His name is C.K. Prahalad.
Okay.
And he was talking about the fortune at the bottom of the pyramid and the role of emerging nations in being able to provide creativity and innovation, and the same recognition about for them they can't afford many of these things, therefore they innovate quite radically because they have no choice.
Absolutely.
Meaning, necessity becomes the mother of invention. And the example he gave me was in India, when I was growing up and even today, power keeps going out. There is a scarcity of good sort of, industrial strength, reliable power. So if you're at home and you have a washing machine, and not many people can afford washing machines, but if you do, then what would happen is any of these kind of machines that have a cycle, you'd lose the power and then it would restart from the start.
Yeah.
Waste.
Yeah, absolutely.
So someone came along and said, what if I design a chip, because chips are cheap now, and put it into the washing machine to say, remember where you stopped. When the power comes back, restart from there. Okay? So some idea of state, and that you could go to the place in the cycle that you stopped. Someone else then said, wow, if you do that, we now have a smart grid-based washing machine for the world, because you could turn around and say, I don't need this wash done in the next 30 minutes. I can wait 12 hours for it. Only wash when the price of electricity drops below this level. But make sure, even if it gets expensive, that you finish by this. So this idea of conditional and dynamic decision making, because you're connected, you're on a grid, and the device has a brain based on instructions you gave it to say, under these parameters and criteria, fulfill the job. Okay? And I think we're going to see more and more of this, because it goes back to this sharing.
Absolutely.
When you have community resources, we must have negotiated rules about how to share those contended resources, because everybody doesn't need to have everything that very instant, okay? In fact, we have to walk away from this instant gratification, me society.
It's also a matter maybe of changing from a monetary system into a resource-based system. I think the share economy is very crucial.
I think I would sort of try to bridge the two by saying a true value-based. Okay.
That is perfect.
Yeah, and if we as what does society value?
Yeah.
Let's protect it.
Yeah, but you know what I like is this this idea of seeing that in very in the so-called emerging markets. Like today, I had the spokesperson of Vodafone.
One second, just remind me something. When I was young, I was very disappointed by something that happened.
Okay.
I was reading about this thing which at that time was called the hole in the ozone layer.
Okay. Yeah.
We weren't using terms like global warming. We hadn't even come anywhere near climate change. We're talking about holes in ozone layer. And I was reading in the Western press that CFC producing fridges, equipment, aerosols were all being banned. At the same time as they were being banned, companies were exporting that technology to India. Okay? And I'm sort of thinking, I thought this was one ozone layer, right? How come they're allowed to export it? Because they should ban it everywhere in the world. In that same kind of way today, I think the big advantage of everyone being connected is that we can't have those kind of stupidities happening anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway, you were telling me about Vodafone.
Just to continue this, it's still happening. I grew up in a blue collar area in Germany.
Okay.
Right? We had a lot of coal mining over there and steel plants. So they deassembled the steel plants after the whole industry changed in this part of Germany, and sold it to China. And now we are complaining about the pollution that is happening in China, right? Why we think, okay, we got rid of it, just ship it to the other end of the world. It is just this kind of we love to do business globally,
but pollution is pollution anywhere in the world.
Exactly.
But this collective understanding of resources. Although I'll tell you, there is at least one example I'm aware of equipment and machinery that was discarded, being refurbished and brought back for reuse, that I'm very happy about.
Yeah.
Okay? That is vinyl albums.
No, I agree with you.
Now
nothing beats the sound of a vinyl.
Well, I hope Neil Young's going to prove me wrong. But until then, I'm actually told that there are people in Germany who are going into the neighboring countries finding discarded presses for printing vinyl.
I like that.
Bringing it over here, reconditioning it, and then now producing high quality vinyl albums as a result. No, that I like the sound of.
There you go. Talking about this this little interview that I had with Vodafone, we were talking about mobile payment. And then I remembered I was in Africa in 2005 or 2006.
Or M-Pesa. Or
and how they were using mobile payment on a very, very simple level, but a very effective one. So there was a Maasai warrior selling his goat over his smartphone. He had a prepaid SIM card in there, and he was selling it for minutes that he got transferred over a text message to his smartphone, to his SIM card again. That was the very first form of mobile payment that I ever experienced, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is like ahead of what we are doing right now.
I have family who live in Kenya, so just telling me about it, and it is only just beginning to enter the West.
Yeah,
right? I mean, yesterday I think I was reading about something that's taken 4 years, 3.5 years to do in the UK, but we're now seeing in many parts of the West the ability to send money to a mobile number.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when we see that enter commerce, but it's not just the money side, right? It goes back to this sort of value. How can I get information faster to the place that it is needed?
Yeah.
How can I do that? Understanding the form factor of the device.
Yeah.
How do I make it? I mean, when we speak of the Internet of Customers, a lot of the thinking is saying, how do you make it easier to connect devices to publish into a feed?
Yeah.
And to subscribe through APIs from that feed.
Right.
How can I make sure always the information is driven to the right place, to the right person, according to the choices that person makes, not broadcast.
Yeah.
Okay?
A final question, JP, and I think this is the most difficult one, because I'm also asking myself the same question again and again. We've been living for the last 3 decades, I think, in a very predictable world, somehow. Maybe not politically, right? But in terms of technology and how it evolved. Now we're stepping into this age of magic again.
Yeah.
Where
Of
even
wonder,
us,
yeah?
we're starting to explore it
Yeah.
like a child again, because so many things, like these examples that you just gave,
Yeah.
about the Shazam and about this amazing dress and this sprayed dress.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
This
even
is
the
pure magic.
yeah,
For me
and
still.
it's magic I can now have at home.
Yeah, exactly.
Affordable magic.
It will be for the jobs that we're doing, where we have to filter so much information, and where people are constantly asking us to make predictions about it. I'm always telling them, you know what, I can give you a prediction, let's say maybe because I know some roadmaps, yeah, for the next 12 months about fundamental technology. But when it comes to a prediction of 2 or 3 years, that's going to be a problem. But am I going to make a prediction for 10 years? But this in between, due to this exponential growth of technology and the connectivity that we're creating, and especially now having hundreds of thousands of millions, and even in the next 2 or 3 years, maybe billions of people now getting connected to technology and information, it will be so hard for us to predict the future.
Okay.
I think it's just basically.
Oh, maybe it's the utopian in me or the optimist in me. It is over 100 years since people wrote about the theory of the leisure class.
Yeah.
Okay. We've been talking about all the downsides of machines doing the jobs of people.
Yeah.
And from the time of the beginning of the agricultural revolution, we've had that tension through the industrial revolution. Every big technological transformation, you start seeing the effect on jobs.
Yeah.
And that's a big social discussion for us to have. I have a son leaving university this year. And the question to ask is, what is he going to do? What job will sustain? What are the skills that are needed tomorrow?
Yeah.
And then I connect it back to this age of wonder. And I think to myself, wow, in the time to come, many of the jobs that I considered boring, right? For in my life, it was the slide rule or the book of log tables or the book of sine, cos, tan, things that I had to do manually, which got outsourced to machines. Right? We are now sitting at the point where the capacity of the machine to answer complex questions quickly is high.
Yeah.
And we are going to be freed up as human beings as a result. When we get freed up and we are connected and we have compute power and strength, when we understand the things like it's not just the Raspberry Pi or the Arduino, the embedded system kind of thing, the ability to share things in community, what are we going to create with the time that we have? What new disciplines are we going to create? Because education will be transformed, healthcare will be transformed.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What are these? And so my delight is saying, like the woman with the spraying, the art that is going to be created, the music that is going to be created, the entertainment that is going to be created, the literature that is going to be created. I see some of the most fabulous moves happening in active books, right? Not an electronic representation of an analog book, but now saying when I'm reading a book, there's video embedded inside the book. There's hyperlinks to take me to the original references, right? I can get community interaction while I read. The whole experience of so much of what I would consider art and culture is changing before my very eyes, right? Some of the, even things like advertising, nowadays some of the best ads I've seen are actually stories of people coming together in ways that, suddenly an ad has become entertainment. So, what a world we live in where I use one button to say no ads. And then someone sends me a link and I go see an ad because I want to see the ad. Okay? So those cultural transformations are just beginning. And if I roll forward 10 years and say, I'm going to be living longer, my healthcare is going to be better, my transportation is going to be better, my educational process is going to be better, and I will have more free time to be creative. What am I going to do with that creativity? That's what the sense of wonder is about.
Absolutely.
Okay? And it's that sense of wonder that brought our conversation together, and we should keep going with it.
Oh, absolutely. JP, thank you so much. It is always a pleasure to talk to you, and especially now to share it with a live audience and to talk about
stuff.
Exactly.
Hey.
Exactly.
Good to see you, Sascha.
Good to see you.
All the best.
Wir haben als nächstes im Stream haben wir Klaas, und zwar den Jörg Huttmann, das ist der Pressesprecher von Klaas, und dann geht es um Connected Traktoren etc. pp. Bis dahin haben wir einen kleinen Einspieler, ein bisschen Werbung noch und wir sehen uns in etwa 10 Minuten wieder.